Good morning, hello, and welcome everybody. Switching on all my lights. And I'm going to demonstrate how to make something like this. I won't go through all of it, but it starts off quite simply with a cup and a tea bag. And here's the old one I used, it's the Tea Pigs one. It's a, what's it called? Bursting with Super Berries. Superfruit. There you go. It's lovely. I mean, this is what it looks like before it's used. That's all. It's nothing special. I've got one here which is a Sainsbury's one, which is a funny colour, so that could be anything. There's Taylor's Sweet Rhubarb. It doesn't have to be one of these pyramid ones. Any kind of tea bag with the fruity stuff in. I mean, there's one here, Tesco Red Berries, which I rather like the taste of, so I might use one of those. There we go. We'll try one of those. Now, I know what this one looks like. It's lovely when it comes out. And here's an example of the page. Isn't that lovely? I put coffee cups and lids and things, you know, the lid of something on top, in order to get these imprints and different shapes. And it's come out really nice. If you can see, I don't know if you can, I'll try and see if I can show you. There's a sort of crustiness here, nice little mottling of the colours. I've found that when I just let it dry normally, it sort of goes this greeny colour, but if I hasten the drying by using a heat gun, I get more of an intense purple. Whether that will happen every time, I don't know, but that's what's happened so far. So I've got that one. And a couple more here. Also made of the same Tea Pig stuff. You can see that there's differences in the way the colours. I mean, this one's almost a uniform colour. I just put the different shaped lids and things on at the last moment. So there we go. But you can also use different colours. Like I've used some distress inks on these, Tim Holtz distress inks, and on that one, and I've also added a little bit of the Tea Pigs colour to that as well, and it turned out quite good, I thought. Now, your background, the lady I learnt this from, well, part of this technique, was called Sue Cook. She did a tutorial, a video tutorial on YouTube, if you look her up, Sue Cook, about making her own washi tape. She makes lovely washi tape. And but hers, she started with a book page. You could do that, no problem. And I think she used tea stained paper. But I used my own poetry here. I just wanted something a little bit more personal. So I've got a load of poetry that I did years ago and some I did more recently. So I just printed the whole lot out, changed formatting so it sort of covers the page more. And I did one in this lovely script and one in Times New Roman, like that. And there you are, you've got all your pages. So here's some pages. I'll pick a nice script one. There we are. And I'll show you how I do it. I will now pause this and go and make some tea. And I'll be back in a second. Right, now this has been soaking for a little while. Well, let's use that as well. And it's not a very deep colour, so we'll see what happens. It's a bit exciting, finding out what happens with this. Now, you can just brush it on. Got some brushes here, one of which I've been using for this sort of stuff. It's quite a soft brush, sort of a watercolour wash brush. I like that because it's you can see what's going on then. It's quite pale, this. I may need to add another tea bag. Or you can use something like the actual tea bag itself. Squish most of it out. I've got other tea bags ready to go because I know Tea Pigs is quite strong, but this one doesn't seem to be anywhere near as strong. So we can sort of smudge it about like that. Quite hot because it's only just boiled. Yeah, silly pecker. Or we can do a combination, like I said before, of distress ink and this sort of thing. So let's put that to one side for a moment. That was the rhubarb one. Okay. So here's the red berries. Now, that's the one I like the flavour of when I'm drinking it. So let's see if it adds any colour. Oh, it's looking a bit better, isn't it? Can you see that? Yes. There you go. Oh, I might use the cap of that as well. See if that makes any difference. If not, I'll just put a tea pigs in because I know that works. Oh yes, we've got some more colour out of that one. Go over the whatchamacallits, paper clips in order to try and hope for an impression. It really doesn't matter if it's wet underneath or not, but it's where the colour gathers under the thing you've put here in order to get. I mean, you can do it so that it goes inside like that, or just on the paper so you get a white ring of whatever, like that. Or just make a colourful mess and make sure you've got a fair bit of actual juice. Ooh, that's nice. And then stick the pot lid in the middle of that. Like that. Some more here. I'm not really good at squeezing because my hands are becoming quite arthritic now. But there you go, you know, you get some good colour. Now this is looking a bit on the purple side, which is nice because I didn't want it to be too dry. Of course, if you're using an ordinary tea bag, which you can do as well, then you're going to get a browner effect, aren't you? Let's have a little bit of water in there. I'm getting very colourful hands here. Never mind. Let's move the tea out of the way and try and get some more colour on the page. Quite a lot of colour in that. A bit more. So the Tesco's red berries has got a lot of colour in it, which is nice. But the rhubarb, Taylor's rhubarb one, didn't have much. So I'm just dribbling colour now, using it rather like an ink pad that needs wetting. So now I've got that far. Let's have a go with the, see if I can spread the colour around a bit more. So I've got spots where it's fallen, which is lovely. I don't know how much that will stay. We'll have to wait and see. You don't have to cover all of it, but I like the colour, so I'm adding it all over the place. Yes, it's quite pale when it's just taken out of the cup. It could be simply that I added too much water. So this is quite a lot of water. So that's about 1.5 inches. I'd do less than that next time. I can't remember how much I used on the Tea Pigs one. There wasn't a lot there. So, but I did the same with coffee and tea. So I've got 2 containers with coffee and tea someplace or other. So there you are. Now if you want it to dry in a ring shape, leave the item in there. Unless you've already got a ring shape, in which case you can take that up and simply use your lid to add more rings. But if you want it to stay, leave it there. So I would move this whole thing somewhere to dry. God, I'm feeling quite sticky. It's amazing how much stickiness there is in a fruity tea bag. And yeah, move the whole thing to dry somewhere and come back with another sheet that is finished and do the next section. Okay. Now if you've not got any of your own poetry, but you want to use poetry, I suggest you look at the stuff that's out of copyright, like the classics. Now if I was going to do that, I'd probably use something like in Xanadu de Kubla Khan, a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alf the sacred river ran. Something like that. Or, I don't know, Awake for morning in the bowl of night hath flung the stone that put the stars to flight. I love things like that that give you an instant picture. And you stop and think about it, and it just gives you something to think about. So if you've got a favourite poem that you wouldn't mind using, go ahead and have a look for the text, and just turn it into whatever kind of font you like. You know, I mean, like I say, I've chosen a nice scripty one here, you see, for mine. The reason for using my own poetry is because when you do this stamping, sometimes a little bit of the text underneath shows up. Now, if you use a book page and it's a lovely book that you like, and you like the story of, and bits of it that come out have got lovely feelings to them, fine. Otherwise, I think poetry is a better way of going it, for me anyway. And my own poetry I quite like, so I quite like the idea of little bits of it poking through, you know, so you can see bits of it. So, I mean, I've got one here like about a Cumbrian winter, about another one about an English summer. Be nice to see little bits of that poking through, you know, gently puffing English trains across tortuous winding English lanes, stuff like that. And so a little bit of that poking through when you've done your stamping would be great. So, you know, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, you choose whatever. I mean, there's a Robert Frost poem about stopping by woods on a snowy evening with your horse and cart or whatever. And that is lovely. And I have miles to go and promises to keep. It's just such a lovely poem. Or The Road Less Travelled. Something like that. Something that invokes something. Anyway, enough of all the poetry bits. Supposing that you have gone over it with this Teapix, and because it's just made of water and fruit juices, it may run when you start doing things. So what I've done with this one is gone over it with Distress Micro Glaze. And that seems to have sealed it beautifully. The same way as it would if you were doing another one, like that. With, or like this, which is done with tea dye, that one, tea dye, and I think I used a little bit of espresso, what do you call it, it's the new one, ground espresso. I've only just got that one. So the combination of those two, and just go over it with the distressed glaze, and then it's sealed, it's not going to change. If you want it to change, do your spattering with, spraying on with water first. Let that dry, then go over it with the micro distressed glaze, and that should seal it in place so that anything else you do on the top the underlying surface won't move. There we go. So we've got that far. We've got our colours. Now we want to do some stamping. So what I might do, I've got some bought stamps here with a nice little wave. I might use that. Or I might use this stamp, which I'm quite fond of, which is Oceanus. I quite like that. And I've got a couple more here. I've got this. So we may pretend our footsteps are the first. They're just a little bit of, well, a bit of poetry. But I'd stamp it in a different direction, or there's something like some shells, or, and I think this is what I'm going to do with this one, go on and use, not those because I did those in the last one, use something like these little moon and stars stamps. Here we go, various little ones I've got. I haven't got them all over here, but these are the ones I want to use. Sun and moon and stars. I may have to go, there's some bigger ones, I'll have to go and get those bigger ones because I should have brought them over. Hang on one moment. Right, nothing very erudite here. All we're going to be doing is some stamping. So, I've got a stamp I've carved myself out of a design for something else. My own design. So I've got that, and I've got various colours here. I've got a nice red, which seems to show up okay against this. And that doesn't show up quite so well against brown, but it might do okay here. Don't want the brown. And then there's a few more of my inks. I've got the black, those two look much the same. And a nice purple. And now you wouldn't think it, but the purple is quite dark, so it shows up pretty well against this. So does the black. So let's have a go with the purple. There we go. Ink it up quite well. You want a good coverage. There we go. And then just stamp it on wherever you want it. Now, I'm going to stand up and put a bit of pressure on this because my arms are quite weak. So please excuse any bits of me that pop into view. Not too bad. Might do another one of those over the other side. You just keep going until you fill the page up with as many images as you want. I mean, if you really love the poetry, leave it a bit, leave gaps where the things that you really like are, so that they can show through a bit better. You don't have to have the stamp all on the page. Little bits of it can be off. You don't have to ink up all the stamp. You can just ink up the bits that you want to show. So, like, let's have a go with the shooting stars. I'm still going to stay with the purple for now. I want to go in a bit, perhaps. Let's go in a little bit, just to get a little bit closer. Oops, wrong way. That's me all over, isn't it? Here we are. Just go a bit closer in. Now, I don't necessarily have to have it flat, because don't forget we're going to cut this into strips, where I am anyway. So there we go. And maybe a little shooting star. Sort of a comet-y thing. See, with little ones like that, it's quite handy because you can just go wherever you like and fill up all the little slots that are... Let's have one of those. I like this one quite well. So this one's going to look a little bit different because it's a sort of negative of that kind of thing in a way. Yeah, let me show you that close up. So this is the one I've used, this is the one I'm about to use. Okay, it's only a carving, it's nothing special. Okay, so you've got a different impression of the same thing. Now I have got an orange, but I don't really want an orange on there, or a yellow or anything like that. I don't think it will go. So I prefer to keep to, let's do a red. There we go. I know it's a bit sort of cheesy red on the sun because it's the sun, but it shows up all right, I think. We'll see, soon see anyway. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It might be a bit soft. The impression might be a bit soft, I mean. Yep, a bit soft, but never mind, I'll do another. You can always go over these, like I had this sort of thing happen when I was using a stencil, but I just went over it with a black and a white pen. You know, not all over, just picking up bits. There's nothing wrong with that. Now I'm going to pause this because you can see what's happening. I don't need to play the whole thing. So if I'm going to play it, I'll do it in fast so you can see it all done. Okay? Well, I have now finished stamping to my satisfaction. I've got all my little stamps all over it, and this is what I've got. You can see that there are some areas that are not so densely stamped and some that are quite densely stamped. That's okay. I'm going to be putting the tape on the back as soon as this is dried, but I won't do it yet. I'm going to let it dry first. Right, final stage. You take your stamped sheet and turn it over. You get yourself some double-sided tape. This is the one I'm using. You can get it in different thicknesses. This is 12mm and this is 25mm. I prefer the 25mm because it gives you a nicer end result. And all you do is you just stick it down on the back of your sheet of paper, trying to line it up as nicely as possible, like that. And then you cut it off there, and of course I haven't got my scissors over here, it's over the other side of the room. Hang on. Here we are with scissors. Just snip it off, as I was saying, and then just keep going, doing each strip. Leave a tiny bit in between each one, so that you've got somewhere for your scissors to go and you're not having two bits of tape one on top of the other. There you go. And keep that up until you've covered the entire sheet. I find that when I've got to about that far, I like to cut it off and start again with it down here, because it's easier for me then to focus on it. My eyes are not the best, so you may want to do that as well, or you may be able to manage without. So I'll come back when this is done. Well, I've covered half, and this is about where I like to cut things off so I can do the other half. So there we go. Now once you've got that, I will start at the beginning, the first one, so that you've got a single strip, and then when you want to use it, you peel this yellow backing off and you're just left with the sticky, and then you can stick it to whatever you like. For instance, I stuck this to two pieces of waste pretty card that I'd done some time ago. Two pieces with another piece of board in between us. Some cardboard from a packet of Yorkshire tea. And there we are, we've got some nice piece that I'm using as a bookmark. And now, as I say, I may put some letters on here on the edges. I may not. I may put a eyelet through there or there and thread stuff through. I may not. I don't know. At the moment I'm just using it. These are some of the other colours of things. Washi tape I've done. That's what this is, washi tape, just in case I didn't mention that. So here we go. Got that set. And that's it. And then there's, see, this one is more sort of whimsical, sort of with this little cat stamp on it. And then there's this one. I love this. I love the colour of this one. This was the first T-Peaks one, and it came out really good. You can see what I mean about using a stencil, and I just went over it with a white pen to highlight the bits. You see, you could do the same with anything on here that didn't quite work the way you wanted it to. And then this one, and that's a different one. Got these sort of interspersed slightly, haven't I? I've done one in nature and one in, this is a nature one. That's more like a steampunk one. And then there's this one, which is a naturey one. And this is more of this one, nature one. A great big sunflower on it. That was the one I showed you earlier. And there you are. I mean, you just keep going as you're with whatever you want on your patterns. I mean, I've got pictures of these sheets as I've done them. And there's a more of a steampunky one there. I've got no idea how to store them. At the moment, I'm just, as you saw, I've just got them on with a couple of rubber bands around them, that's all. There you go. Right, well, this is the result of the naturally drying sheet made with the, what was it, sweet rhubarb and the red berries, Tesco's red berries tea bag. And this is now dried overnight. It dried while we were merrily making this one and stamping it up. So now let's have a look. I mean, I've taken some of the bits off already and replaced them, like I moved that one there. So we've got a nice fake line there, and this piece was over here. So there we are. That's what that one resulted in. It's a nice sort of, it's a slightly grotty lid, this, from one of those little tiny jars of Tiptree jam, because we've got Tiptree nearby. And I don't know what that's, a top off sauce bottle or something. There we are. We've got a lovely impression there. And that's where the other paper clip was. And here's this one that's been sitting in there the whole time. So let's take that out, and I've got a nice mark there as well. So there we are. We've got using all these lids. We've got this lovely impression. Actually, it's not bad on that side either. Oh, pity I didn't do any printing on that side too. Never mind. Yeah, we only really need the one side anyway, because it's going to be sticking it down so you wouldn't see the other side. So there we go. So that's that. This is just me protecting tables and things. Don't worry about that. Here we are with a completed page. I have stamped this all over with purple StazOn ink and red Ranger Archival ink. I've done the suns in the red and the moons and stars in the purple. And then I went and took this piece here, which I cut out. There's the beginning of cutting out the actual washi tape. And in doing so, I got to this piece. And I decided to add some detailing using silver and gold ink pens. And I've done large nibbed work on these pieces, and all of the gold is using a wider nib, because I just didn't look for a thinner one. It was working all right, but I wanted more detail on some of the silver or some of the moons and stars, so I used a much thinner nibbed pen on those. And on this one I did this first. I did this with a white pen, but it didn't come out quite so well. I did go over this with micro distress glaze in an attempt to seal it, but the white picked up. You can see that the white has picked up some of the purple colour, and it's not quite as white as I could have hoped for, which is why I went onto this one and did it with silver, which worked a lot better, and gold. So there we go. And that's that page done. I will now continue and cut all this up and proceed to put it with my store of other washi tapes. So I'll have another set then. And there we are, all the different colours of the different sets I've done so far. I rather like those ones, and I really like this one. It's turned out really well. On that one I used the purple ink, black ink, and, as you can see there, teal, which worked rather well. Again, I went over that with a white pen, and that worked rather better. So there we go. And then once you've got your washi tape, you can then either put it in journals or on any piece you're doing with either on canvas or on board. And on this particular case, I've put some onto this board. It's board now, but it started out as a sheet of card, rather like that I had sprayed previously, and I just put 2 pieces on top of some card to stiffen it inside, That's just out of a tea bag's box. And stuck them all together and stuck on 2 pieces of the washi tape, just using the double-sided sticky that I've been putting on the backs. There you go. So that's a bookmark I shall use with great pleasure now. I will either put a little eyelet in here or not, as the case may be, I'm not sure. And I may use the silver pens or gold pens or something like that to create some patterns, some freehand designs around here, or I might use these to decorate it. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about that. And then, of course, I fancied making another one of these. And what I do again is just put the 2 together and then put one of these on here. Perhaps that one. I don't know. Depends what I feel like. But that goes quite nicely. Or I might pick from one of these. I don't know. Decisions. There we go. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and I would love to see if you do anything from this. I'd love to see what you come up with. That would be super. If you like this and you'd like to know when I put up some more, because I'm a bit erratic with putting up videos. I have some health problems, so I don't put them up all the time. I put them up when I can and when I've got an idea. So if you want to know, there's a little bell you can select to be notified of any future uploads, and please like and subscribe if you want to see what else there is. I've got quite a few, now 40 or something videos. You might be interested in one of the others. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again another time. Bye bye.